One of the most highly anticipated and well spoken about smartphones of the year. This is my look at the Vivo X100 Ultra after the hype. This video comes out quite late compared to all the other channels. However, I wanted to spend time to really use this device, compare it to other smartphones, and really give you an honest long-term review of this device. Although I no longer have the device, I still spent a lot of time with it and taken a lot of photos, which we'll get into later. So we're not going to go through the specs, we are just going to talk about the device on a daily basis. So let's talk about the screen. Well, the screen itself, it's nothing revolutionary here. It's good enough and it does the job. I would like some extra brightness in direct sunlight. Of course, it's got that really high peak brightness, but that's only in certain scenarios. Overall, I'd like much better control over the max brightness of the display. This is the Chinese version of the phone, which means it does run Origin OS. Of course, it never got released globally, and that's why it runs this version. I don't actually mind it, it is quite a nice software skin. However, there is a lot of Chinese bloatware and a lot of extra apps that come installed, which, to be honest with you, it does kind of feel a little bit clunky, and I would much prefer just a standard stock Android experience. A massive disappointment of this phone as well is the stereo speaker setup. They sound really bad. There's no bass, there's no mid-range, they don't get particularly loud. It is a massive disappointment, and on an Ultra device I'd expect something to sound a little bit better. The battery on the device is 5,500 milliamps, so it's got a decent sized cell stuffed inside. Paired with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 processor, this should make it a really efficient phone. However, battery life is nothing special, it's nothing spectacular. I only get around a day of battery life and it's got to be charged by about 8 PM. I know I'm a heavy user, I use a lot of camera and I have the phone on full brightness, but that's the same with every device I use, and I would expect a little bit more better endurance out of this device. With a silicon state battery, fast charging speeds, I would expect it to charge a little bit quicker. In my testing, I'm getting about 50 minutes for a full charge, and sometimes when you do want to get that little bit of extra battery, it's not quite quick enough to top it up really quickly. The actual design of the phone I do find kind of generic as well. There's nothing spectacular or nothing stand out about it. It's just that does the job and it's a nice form factor. Slightly dated design in terms of the handful in the hand and how it looks. I'm not being negative about the device, but I just think it's important for me to showcase the actual honest impressions of this device rather than everyone else who just seems to focus on all the positives of the device, which of course we are going to come on to. Now let's get on to the good bit. Let's get on to why everybody is talking about this phone. And it's about the camera system on the back of this phone. And it is probably one of the best cameras I've ever used on a smartphone. There is a few caveats here, but wow, what a smartphone camera. So straight away, I'm not going to focus on the ultra wide. It's nothing special, it does the job and it's alright. It's a 50 megapixel effort, but it doesn't have a particularly large aperture, so in nighttime conditions the shots are not particularly great. You've seen all the comparisons already, you've seen all the photos. All I'm going to do in this video is give you my opinion on the device and the photos. I'll share a few samples with you as well. So now we're going to do something a little bit different. Rather than me comment on every photo, I've slowed it down in the edit so you can have a good look at the photo on the display, why I'm talking about the camera overall and my findings. So there's a lot of macro shots on here, and I think that is a real strong point of that 4.3 times 200 megapixel lens. You can get some absolutely stunning, fantastic macro shots. They are really good, but in certain situations, as you can see here on the screen now, is that when you actually zoom in, they're not as crisp as something like the Huawei Pura 70 Ultra, and I think that's why I didn't fall in love with the macro shots as much as everyone else did. This is the zoom shot right now, so you can see that is a 10 times zoom on that 200 megapixel lens. Really nice image, lots and lots of detail, and by far the best telephoto lens on any camera. My slight disappointment with the X100 Ultra, which they might have actually fixed with the X200 Pro, is where something like the Huawei Pura 70 Ultra has a snapshot mode, or it has it built into its native app, which means it uses sort of AI and a quick shutter to actually get a really crisp image of moving subjects, and that's something that the Vivo didn't have, and it really was noticeable, especially in those darker conditions. As well as night mode, when you take shots at night with the actual camera, you do get a lot of delay when you're actually shooting with a device, where if you use a Huawei, it's instant straight away and does it in post-processing, which often means that you get less blurry shots in dark conditions. The other thing I've noticed with the Vivo as well is that there's a massive colour difference between the ultra wide, main and telephoto, so those colours are not accurately together on all three of the lenses. If you are patient though with those night shots, they come out fantastic, and I think we have to give a special mention to that T-Star coating from Zeiss. It's fantastic and it makes a really big difference that I don't think enough people talk about. The camera wrap is the best I've ever used on any device. It gives you loads of feature-rich features, as well as giving you the versatility to adjust the settings you need. It also gives you some really well thought out bonus modes, although on that I do find that they're sort of half-baked. The bonus modes you get, some of them work really well, some of them don't. So the normal portrait mode, okay, it works good enough, but then you use some of the special effects and you find that the edge detection is no longer as good as it was. So I'd like a bit more time spent really dialing in that UI to each Vivo phone in specific. Video performance is absolutely solid. I find that nighttime videos come out with really little noise, super stabilized, but it's not super clean between switching. Sometimes when you go from the ultra wide to the main to the telephoto, that switching animation is not quite as clean on other devices, so it does make for a slightly clunky experience. It is nice that you can shoot 4K at 120 frames per second, but you can't do it with all lenses. Something like the Nubia Z60 Ultra, you can. As much as I like the shots from the Vivo, they don't sort of capture that same sort of emotional connection as something like the Huawei Pure 70 Ultra. There's something about that processing power that Huawei has that just makes it feel a little bit more special to shoot with. And I think sometimes it comes down to the factors, what phone and what device makes you want to go out and shoot photos and videos. And for me it wasn't the Vivo, and that's why I no longer have the device.